Hey guys, in this tutorial we're going to look at how I use the text animator inside After Effects to create elements that help me build futuristic user interfaces. It may be unconventional, but the text animator allows us to save loads of time and create complex looking animations with just a few clicks. So let's get started. Before I get into the tutorial, I wanted to give you a brief look into my background and history. I've been designing futuristic user interfaces, or FUIs, since around 2015, and I've been lucky enough to work on a range of different TV shows and major Hollywood films, including Black Mirror, Spider-Man, Venom, and I even did a film with a guy called
James Bond.
Over the years, I've developed unique methods to create visual assets and elements that are present in the user interfaces that I design. Many of the FUI elements are achieved by using a text layer inside After Effects. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I use text layers inside After Effects to help create and design elements for user interfaces. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is go to File, Project Settings, and go to Expressions, and under Expression Engine make sure it's set to JavaScript. This gives us some new functionality that the older versions of After Effects don't have. Once we click OK, we're going to select a text tool and enter a single dot. The font I'm using is Barista. It's part of the Adobe Toolkit. Any font that has a square will be fine, so let's just do a little random font. That would be fine because it's square. So yeah, any font with a nice square. I'm using the bold version. If I use the thin version, it's not a square, so bold it is. The first thing I'm going to do is add a couple of sliders, so I'm just going to add slider control, and I'm going to call one X and then call this Y. I'm then going to go into my, just give me some more space here, go into my source text, and I'm going to type in xVal, which is going to be a variable, and I'm going to link that to this slider, and I'm just going to copy this, paste this, and change this to Y, and change that to Y, and nothing will happen other than this 0. That's because it's referencing this. We don't want that. We're going to enter some extra code. It's going to be in the description below. I'm not going to type it out. I'm just going to paste it in. But this is the code. It's using a repeater function that's part of the new JavaScript engine. So it's going to basically give us, it will repeat whatever we enter in this text layer. So right now it's showing nothing. That's because this is set to 0. If I enter 1, it's going to give me 5 dots across and 1 dot down. So if I do this, I've now created basically my own widget where I can create dots. So this is going to be the base of everything that we do to make our widgets. So we've got that. So that's that step done. We won't be doing anything else there. Let's now play around with this and start with making our first widget, and we're going to be making a kind of like some type of data block moving thing. Let's just make it. So it's important to okay, so I'm going to go to animate, click this little arrow here and click on position. And I'm then going to first of all call this position X plus. So these are going to be things that are going to moving across this way. You can see they all move. So what I'm going to do is just set the end value to 50%. And now just move half of them across. And I'm just going to zoom in. And just make sure these are aligned. That looks like it's aligned, so that's the number. This value will be different depending on the font you use and the text, the size of the font as well, the text size. So that's that, and I'm then going to now show you how we add some animation in. I'm going to do randomize order on. I'm going to do alt click on the stopwatch, and I'm just going to set a quick expression here, and I'll explain what this does in a second. Well, what this does is basically going to give me a random value every time. Every random seed here. I'm going to be duplicating this animation element that I've just made here a few times. So now I'm going to add some animation, and we'll do that using a wiggle. Any number you want here. So you can see now we've got some movement of some squares, but they're only going one way. So this is where we're gonna, oh, and the amount we move of the actual dots that move is controlled here. So let's just set this to 20, and then I'm going to close this up and duplicate this, and we'll call this one y minus, and we just have to enter a negative value here. If I play this, now we've got things moving left and right, and because I entered that seed expression, let's just save this. That seed's always going to be different. So there it's 363, and there is 400. So any number between 0 and 500 is always going to be our seed value. I'm going to duplicate this one more time, and we'll call this one y. We'll call this y plus, which means y on the plus means it will go down. So we'll set this value to 0, and we'll push this down until it looks like it's aligned correctly. This is all done by eye. Let's just zoom in. I think that looks okay. It's 24 is the number there. I'm going to duplicate that, call this y negative, and we'll go into our y negative and press a minus before that. Now this should be moving in every direction. So that's looking cool. So that's our first widget, and it's all powered by a single text layer. So we can add more to this. You know, you can start adding some text around the edges and add some strokes along the hair. But let's see what we can do. So we can control a few more options here. So let's say I wanted a few more to go across that way. That's fine. We can also add some different values, like say for example the opacity for the ones that go across. They can be a certain value. So that's looking interesting. Again, we can do the same here. Let's try adding a opacity here, turning this one down now. So yeah, we've created a cool widget there quite easily. So that's one widget down. Okay, let's try and make another one. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate this and save that, and we're just gonna go into here and delete these because we don't need them anymore, and we're going to try and make a different little widget. We're going to make like a kind of a grid array, and if I open up my UI toolkit, let's expand that, make it bigger. I think I'll go with blocks, and let's go with a animated block grid. Kind of make something like this. So we're going to make some controls where we can control the number and the color and things like that. And again, it's just cool widgets that you can make. I use them in my UIs. So this is a shot from Venom. I'll make something similar here, and also I'll just make something like that. So this is from a show called Mars that was on Net Geo that I worked on. So why don't we just recreate something like this? I actually made this with Fractal in particular because I made this in 2017. Didn't know about the text effects method at the time. So let's try and recreate that. So let's go back into After Effects and show you how I made this from scratch. So we've got this that we just duplicated. So remember, all it is just a dot with our controllers and with this code applied to the source text. We'll still use a full stop, but all we're going to do here is reduce this just so it works a bit quicker. And we're going to first of all add a tracking, so we can space these out, and we'll duplicate this slider and we'll call this tracking, and we'll alt click on the tracking and pick whip to here. And that's not worked because I put the wrong. There we go. Want to alt click this one. And there we go, that works. So we've got this, and I want to control the line spacing, which you can do from here, but probably not the best thing to do. So we'll leave that. I think it was on 24 before. We'll go to animate again, and we'll go to line space. We'll go to here, duplicate this, and we'll go line space. And I'm gonna alt click on line spacing. I'm gonna press open bracket, pick whip this value, press comma, and then pick whip our line space value, and press close bracket. So now we've got a nice controller. I'm going to change the size of this thing, so we can do that using the text parameters here. So we're going to go like this, and you can see where we're going here. We'll bring that in and bring that in there, and let's add a few more and bring that in again. And let's change the color to this to more of a blue. Okay, so how can we add some variation to the color, like some blinking grid and stuff like that? So we'll maybe we should label our layers. So let's just go to the first one quickly, and we'll call this grid movement, and we'll call this one block flashing. And let's go into our text effectors and just quickly name these. So this one was tracking, so let's just call this tracking, and this one's line spacing. Okay, let's just keep things tidy so we know what we're doing. Great. Let's add let's go with opacity. So I'm just going to play around with a few things here. So I added the opacity to the wrong thing here. I have to go here and add the opacity. No, I did it wrong again. Make sure I'm not actually selected that. Let's select the actual text and go into opacity. Now it's added a new animator, and we'll call this opacity, which is spelled wrong. That'll do because I'm too lazy to fix that, and we'll just set this to 50%, and that puts half of them, sorry, that puts all of them at 50. We'll switch that to 20 actually, and we'll go here and just select how many we have. So, and then we go into the advanced tab and go to random. So that's looking cool. Let's just go to fewer. Actually, let's go to a lot more, something like that. Now there's animation, how do we do it? We've got two ways. One, you can animate the offset, but that basically pushes all of them to 100 or all of them to 0. No, all of them to 100. So you can either wiggle the central amount, so it'll give you a thing like this, but it's a bit well, there's nothing wrong with it. So let's actually just try that. So nothing more than 20 really. So these are turning off and on. You can see it; they're kind of fading off and on. If we turn the smoothness down to 0, now they're blinking off and on. And I'm gonna crank that to 90. And then also I'm going to put a random seed in, and again I'm just gonna add in our code that we used before. And then I'm going to duplicate that and just mess around with the speed of this one. So now we should have two different levels of blinking off and on. So let's crank that up to 80 so you see a few more on. So it's kind of removing quite a few there. So let's just, that's not, there we go, that's fine. And another way to animate is literally by animating the random seed. So I'm going to go to this one and go to the advanced tab. I'm going to go into random seed, and this time we'll change the code. Just do time times 10. This might look a bit crazy. Yeah, it does. So I think 1 will be fine. But that's a bit of a, I don't know, it looks a bit naff to me. You can make it look better by basically duplicating the opacity, and then what we're going here. There's the seed here, so we're going to do just type in the word value there, press time. Now we can move this along, and I'll do like 1.5. so now we should have more just randomness going on here. But I don't really like using the time method, so I'm just gonna delete that and just put our code back in. Okay, let's add some color. Let's say I didn't want opacity change, I wanted some to be blinking yellow or something. So we'll add a fill color, and we will do green, and I only want 20% of them to show. And I want the randomized color. I only want certain ones to be solid green, so I think I need to push this above here. I thought that would fix it. It doesn't. I think it's because, yeah, it's giving me a fill on all of these, so I don't think there's any way around that. Just gonna press around some random buttons and see if that fixes anything. But I think, yeah, you get the gist of this one. So that's one way you can make a widget as well. So you can just, you know, adjust the speed, the wiggle speed for any of these parameters here, if you wanted to go faster. So yeah. Okay, let's try making another widget. So we've got 2 widgets we've made now. I'm just gonna put them here and here, and then just shrink them down just so we know what we're doing with them. Okay, let's make some more. Just before we move on, I'll just show you some other things you can do with, say, this one that we just made. So we'll just duplicate that, bring it down here, and let's just give this a grid of, say, 8 by 8, and we'll reset this to 100. So now we've got a square grid, and I'm just going to make this I'm just going to make this bigger, just so you can see it clearly, and not really keen on that green, so let's get rid of that. And I mentioned before, if you change the font, you can use circles, so any font with a dot. So there we go, and I'll just select the bold version of this, and then just scale that down, and you know, now we've got some, whoop, undo that, there we go. Now we've got some dots that animate. So again, you've just another alternative thing you can do there, and again, it's something I use a lot when I make my UIs. So let me just show you examples. So I've got literally some dots there, you can see. Yeah, so here you can see I'm using a couple of dots grids, and I'm using the random changing the random seed method there, and we've got some more going along here. So it's the same principle. Again, I just use text layers to create that. Pause that, and yes, move that up here, and let's try and create a new one. Okay, so we've basically made an element that's similar to this one here, and basically this one here. Now we're going to look into making this circular element. This is basically some type of data reading, defragmenting kind of thing. It looks kind of cool. So yeah, let's see how we can make this element here. So we'll go into After Effects again. I'm going to duplicate this layer and hide these 3 because I don't want to see them. And I'm going to go into our text parameters and just delete everything here. Apart from the opacity, maybe that one's fine. So this should have some animation. That's cool. First thing I'm going to do is change this to 50. Actually, don't 100. Scale this up. You can't actually see anything. Perhaps if I put it on screen. And then I'm going to switch this to just 6. Go to tracking. We'll go this way. Expand it all the way along. We want loads more now in the. Oh no, we don't want tracking to go this way. We want to fill them out like that. And let's just go with 6 here. Increase the line spacing here, and increase the size here, and maybe a little bit wider as well. So that's okay there. Pull in the tracking, pull in the line spacing, and then increase the number in X. Just adjust the tracking so it fits. That's not fitting. Yep, that should work. And just make sure that's on the edge. And then all we have to do is add a filter called an effect called polar coordinates. Set it to rectangular to polar, and crank this to 100. You can see there's a gap here. That's because it's not completed all the way. So we just need to fill it out. I think my edge wasn't actually fitting correctly. So these settings will all be different if you're following along, but the principles are the same. And let's just adjust that so it doesn't look crap. Okay, it's not looking too bad. Let's just hit play. So yeah, that's basically how I made that one. You control the size of it by where it appears on the x-axis. So if I want it bigger, I just have to push it down. So all we're doing is actually pushing it up and down. And you can see there's a black gap there, and that's why we're getting a gap here. So let's just increase that tracking. And there you go, we've got another element. And to move this around, because if I move this like this it goes a bit crazy, we need to pre-compose it, and now we can move this along. So let's have a look at our widgets we've made. Okay, I'm going to follow this theme and just do another option here with the circle. Let's try another one. I'm just going to go back into this and copy this and come back and paste. This time I'm going to delete polar coordinates and we'll just solo this layer, and just so things render a bit quicker, let's just drop this to 4. And I want for this one dot, so any font with a dot will be fine. And then I'm going to go to make sure they're back to 100 100 and expand out the tracking and the line spacing. Just push it like this. Okay, what I want to do with this one is get a mask, a circular mask, click on this text layer, and I'm just going to create a circle. Pull around this side, it's fine. And I'm going to go to text, go to path options and select mask 1. And now it creates the text on a mask path. And you don't need to add more here to fill it out. What you can do is just go to here and go force alignment, and that fills it out for us. And you can go reverse path if you want it on the inside or if you want it on the outside. I'll go with the inside for now. And if I play this, this is what it looks like. That's cool, but let's see what we can do with this. Just so we can start from scratch, I'm just going to delete that. This is looking a bit weird here, so let's just reduce the number. I think that would work there. I actually want more than that, so let's just times that by 2 and figure out the right amount. I think the perpendicular force alignment is messing things up, so I'm just going to do it this way. Yep, that's fine. Oh, almost fine. Come on, I'll get there. And well, you can see why UI takes forever, because you're always messing around like this. Yeah, it'd help if I press Control. So now I'm pressing Control and I get the smaller increment movements. Right, so I want to animate some of these to be big and small. I want to affect the size, so I'm going to go to Scale, and for this I'm going to make it bigger. And you can see these little X's. We need them to be in the middle of the circle. and we just go into more options, and it's group alignment, and we just have to just tweak it so that X is in the circle. Thank you. And then we'll go back to here and we'll select this to be about 50 and random size. In fact, we'll go to 200. It's fine. So yeah, it's got a bit too big. And then I also want to add well, what can I do? Let's see, I want to add a opacity maybe, but I don't think that's what I want here. Anyway, so let me see if I can animate the size. Just by animating the wiggle here. So yeah, we've got that. Let's see what else we can do, because I think I want to knock back some of these because they're too bright. So the obvious way to do it actually would be to set that like that, and then go into our properties here and add a fill color. So now the ones that are selected will be a color, and that's too many for me. I only want a few to show up, so let's drop that down. So yeah, that's looking better. Bleep, 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 bleep. But I kind of want a bit more, I want some movement. So let's try something. I'm gonna go with okay, so I'm basically just gonna go a bit rogue here and just randomly mess around with some stuff. I'm gonna see if this works. Wrong one. So I want to see if I can basically kind of make an organic position movement here. So that's not the one I want. I want to select on the text and create a new position and just 10 to 10. Okay, this is a pure experiment here. I don't know if this is going to work. Randomize order on. Kinda, but it's not flowing how I want. Maybe if I delete the range selector and add a wiggly selector. That's making everything wiggle, but I don't want everything to wiggle. So you can see each individual, I think I do need a range selector in here. And let's just range it to 50. And then set that to random. So now, yeah, only a few are going to move. So just give some organic kind of look. So we're going to have to really play around with this a bit more for the look I want to go for. So I'm going to turn this off. And then probably add a fill to this. It's giving me a filter everything. So yeah, maybe this experiment has not gone the way I wanted, but yeah, I just encourage you just to play around with a few things. I didn't have an end in mind. I was just trying something. Okay, I've got another example of a UI that I've made. And we're just going to look at making a couple of elements, mainly again using text layers. I want to make this element here it's like a highlighted bar thing happening here, and this element over here we got some kind of like dots getting highlighted and things. If you've been following along, you should be able to figure out how I did this, but we'll just go over it and anyway, just so you can see the variation you can get in some of the designs. Okay, so let's get to it. So just for demo purposes, I've got a quick part of a UI I've got here. Well, here's the UI, and again, it's another UI I designed, and I just want highlighted bars around this area here. So I'm just gonna go into this area, and so that's it. And I want some bars and some lines here. So how do we do that? Well, I've got a toolkit that's got about 130 different presets. Let me just quickly show you that. But all here, and I've got loads of different kind of things, from text to graphs to data and things like that. But one of them is like a highlighted bars thing. So if I just double click that, it pulls in some bars. Again, it's just a single text layer. And what I will do is just like set this to 30, and then like put it over here, and probably set this to what I'll do is have a look at the spacing. So it's set to 30, so this should be matching as well normally, and then I'll just tweak it so it looks right. So this is how I'll do it. So I need 12 more there, and then I would probably send this to the bottom, and make this darker, probably even darker, like so, and then change my speed to like 2. So now we've got some highlighted text stuff happening here, and probably want to make that green. But let's see how we can make this from scratch. I'm just going to go back into the elements that we've made before, because I'm using that as a base, only because I just don't want to copy the expressions again. And then go back into my comp, which I just have open. Okay, and I'm just going to paste that here and press UU. And we don't need this, and we don't need that, and we don't need this one. So now we've just got this. I only need them going across. So rather I need 12 of these. These are my bars. And the first thing I'm going to do is set that to a darker color. You're going to sample this color here. And so this is a full stop, so we're just going to have to make that bigger and expand out the leading rather. I think that's a bit too big, so just have to zoom in, and I'll probably adjust it using the line space here instead. I'm holding on to control rather. Okay, and then I'm just going to make this longer. Actually, I'll tell you what, we're going to add a bit more functionality to this. So we're going to go into here and go to scale, and then press duplicate a few times, and we'll go to width, height. And we'll set that to 100 and set that to 100. And then we'll pick whip. We'll press the open bracket and it's width. And then height. And now we should be able to make this long. As long as we want. And I'm just going to change the grouping. The grouping alignment. So it's like from the left. So now when I change the scale, it goes like that. Okay. And then I'm going to send this to the back. And move it across. And just bring that scale in. Okay, so now I want a few of these bars highlighting, like it says, just randomly searching or highlighting a few things. So we'll just go into fill color. That's going to give me all of them. We don't need that. I'm just going to go full screen so we can see this a bit bigger. We'll just call this HL for highlight. Change the color to like a green. That green will do. And then I'm going to go to advanced and change the units to index. This just tells me the number of bars, number of lines rather. And I want 2, and I want them to be a random. And then I'm just going to go and set a random time expression on the seed. So now we should have some bars that are getting highlighted. And I think that green's looking a bit saturated, so yeah, let's knock it back. And then I'm going to go back out and just see what that looks like. Okay, and then there was another element I wanted to show you. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, it'll be something like this. How can we recreate that? Again, I use text layers here. Now I think for this one, I think I may have used 2 text layers, but I think I can get away with using 1. But there's no need, so I'll just do 2. So literally I'm gonna work within this comp here, and I'm gonna mask this so we can have a reference, and yeah, let's see what we can do here. So I'm gonna again paste this again, and actually I'm not gonna paste that. I'm gonna go back into the thing that we just made. Right, so I'm just going to go back here and copy this, only because it's got this extra functionality that we made, and go into here and paste this, and we're going to reset it to 100. Okay, and we're going to get rid of the highlight, we don't need that. We're going to go here and add a white stroke. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll go do a 5 by 5 grid. set the tracking to 0, set the line spacing to 0. So yeah, it's roughly the same, but not really. The line space is greater here. Okay, so it looks like I've got some dots inside dots. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to use 2 layers here. So what I'll do now is duplicate and then do this and then press UU and then add a scale option and scale this down, and then you can just like move it across here, scale it down further, and yeah, the principles are the same. So what can we do here? Well, we can do an opacity to get rid of some of them. Boom, boom, boom. Switch to random order, press random seed, times 2. So now we've got this. But it looks like the outlines of mine are doing that, so I can actually, well, I literally could just copy this and then paste it on top of this and scroll down here and bump that opacity to 50. There we go. So yeah, basically it's the same thing, and that widget's made with text layers. Cool. Okay, there's another one I wanted to show you. It's how I created this kind of element here, but this was actually created using a single fractal noise. Although you can make this with text layers. In fact, we'll go and I'll show you how you do it in fractal noise, and then I'll show you how we can try and achieve it using text layers as well, or a text layer. Alright, so let's try this. Okay, I'm back in After Effects and I'm going to create a new solid, and I'm just gonna solo this so that's all we see, and then I'm gonna do fractal noise, and then I'm gonna go to transform and turn off uniform scaling, but before I do that I'm gonna go to block and then change this complexity to 1. So then I'm going to zoom in and let's just do fit 100, and then we're going to change the width to something like this, and then just let's get some color in there. We'll go with a tritone and we'll set it to another UI blue, and then the whites we'll set it to a lighter blue, and the darks, or the shadows rather, we'll go with a really darker blue, something like that. And we can just adjust some of the looks and with the contrast and brightness. Yeah, I think that's okay. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is actually create some lines that go along it. So I'm just going to create a stroke and just go from there to there, and then go to 10. I'm going to add a repeater and change the position to 0 and put the Y position to here, and then let's add a few, and this is where you just need to finesse so it matches perfectly. Cool. I'm only going to work with this section here just for the purposes of this, so I'm just going to draw a mask. Well, I'm going draw a better mask than that. Draw a mask on the actual solid, so we've got this, and then I'm going to bump that contrast up, and just tweak with this a little. I think the shadows need to be a lot darker. So now how do we get some movement? And a couple of ways of doing that. I want to click perspective offset, and then I'm going to do evolution. I'm going to go to alt click on the stopwatch and press time times 25. Let's see what that looks like. Cool. But then I also want to do some other movement. Let's see. Probably not that one. Yeah, I'm going to go with to have an offset, but that's not looking right. So I think one of these settings normally does it. No. I think I've done something wrong here. Right. Now, I mean, I think that works, but I did want a few more sliding across. So I guess we can do that with the just messing about now. Okay, so that's the way with fractal noise. Let's see if we can achieve a similar look using a text layer. So yeah, you know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to duplicate one again and solo this. Set this to 100. I'm going to go with just 2 here and 12 there, and I'm going to scale this back up to 100 so we can see it better. In fact, I'm going to go bigger just so you can see this, and you know, let's make it thinner. Set the tracking to 0. So we'll go thin and add more. And we'll just go one layer for this one. So I just want some random blocks to be moving left and right. So you know the drill, just delete the things we don't need. So it's the opacity and the animator. And we'll set the color to a dark color like this. Okay, so first one I'm going to go with position and -15. I only want 25% moving, and I also want a randomized order, and then I want to add a opacity value to it, lower it down, and add a wiggle, and let's bump that opacity right down. I'm going to duplicate this again. This time this one's going to go across, and when it does go across I want the scale to change as well, so I'm going to add a property value and go scale. I bump up the opacity, actually delete the opacity. The scale is going to go thicker, and also it's going to go Actually, just before we do that, I'm going to go just change the seed. This is why I like using that seed random expression from before. And then here I'm just going to go add a fill color and set this to orange. What's cool about this, it kind of looks like DNA. So if you have a UI that's like needs DNA or something, you could create this kind of thing. Actually, this is why I'm going to add a seed random and actually use this in the upcoming Bond film. I can't say too much about it, but let's just say there's something to do with DNA, and or there isn't, or there is. I'm not allowed to talk about it, but let's say there is, then you know you can do this method. I really think I shouldn't have said anything there. But no one's going to watch this video, so who cares. One true random enter 500, and let's see what this looks like. I'm just going to do it. So it looks like it's scanning for something a bit too fast, so drop that down, drop this down. So that's looking interesting. So the reason I did that expression is if I now duplicate this, it's going to give me like a new element every time. So there you go. And, that looks really cool. So you know you can build upon that and create your own UI. That's create your own UI element. This is looking a bit too fast for me, but you know you get the gist. We're just basically experimenting. I'll just show you the basics, and then the idea is you experiment and add in extras that you like. Yeah, you know, control the speed and all that, and you can make your own sliders here, and then so you can have your own presets yourself. Let me just show you how you can make that. You would select your text and effects by clicking control while I select these two. Then you go to save animation preset, and we're going to call this UI text DNA thing, and give it a second to save, and then it should be available here. So I'm just going to delete this, and then anytime you are making a UI, if I just type in the word DNA, double click, and there it is, and then there's my element. So yeah, like I said, you can create slider controls here to control the color or anything you want from the effects panel, so you don't have to keep on pressing U and going into here and tweaking up things. You can just control it from there. Okay, so let's just save that and move on to another one. So I've just opened up my UI toolkit gallery. This is the website for it, and I'm just going to have a look at some elements that we can recreate. So we recreated this one. I'm going to get onto the graphs in a bit. We've basically made these two, and that one, and that one. We know how to do this one and this one. I'm not going to do circles today, and I'm not going to do text today. So I think now's a good time to get onto the graphs. Yeah, I think let's move on and do some graphs. So now we're going to look at how to make graphs using text layers, and yes, I did say text layers. I use them all the time to make graphs for my UIs. Let's have a quick example, or look at an example. So let's look at this one. So we've just got a little one here, and we've got another one there, and they're always great just as a visual element in any UI. So I'll show you how I created one. So I can pull one in from my UI pack. So if I just double click, you'll see it is a text layer, and if I press RAM preview, we've got some animated options here. So let's create this from scratch. So I've got the element that we've used before. So it's got the X and Y already. So these are the elements that we've been making already. I'm going to set this to 1 and set this one to 10. So we're just reusing elements. So how do we create some graphs? Well, first of all, we're going to go to our scale option and we're going to turn off the constraint proportions and crank this up so you can see what's happening already. And go to path options and go to more options. Just make sure these X's are at the base of everything, so they are already, so that's fine. Right, so let's see. We're going to go into main select. Go to selector and we'll go to wiggly selector and we'll delete this main selector. So if I play this now, we've got this happening. But we don't want that, we want the minimum amount set to 0. And look at that, we've got some graphs. And you can control the speed here. And mess around with these options. So look at that. And what's cool here, we've got this thing called correlation, which is the amount of variation basically. So if we crank this up to 100, it basically gives us a little bit of movement. So we crank this just to 94, just a little bit, but it all looks like they're moving simultaneously. We switch the random seed on. The random seed is on. Lock dimensions, I don't think we want that, because that's gonna... Oh yeah, we do want lock. Do we want lock? No, we don't want lock dimensions. But I do like the correlation set to basically 0. That way we get big variation. And let's change the wiggles to second to 0.5. And there you go. And then once again, you can make your own controls. So let's duplicate this and we'll call this speed. And you'll just pick width that to there, and anything you want you can control. So it's the same principle for everything here. Now what about size? What if I want to make this bigger or smaller? We can add another scale property here. Where did it go? Oh no, wrong one. I'm going to go up here and add scale. Turn this one off, and you can control the height and width using this method here. So let's show you how to do this. So I'm going to duplicate this and we'll call this W for width and H for height. So I'm going to pick width. So this is the width, press comma, and then pick width this for the height. And you'll see it disappears, because we need to crank these up. So now we can control the thickness and the height. That's cool. And if you want more, you can add 20 there, and we've got a whole lot of graphs. And I haven't tried this before. What if I select 2 and increase? Yeah, look at that, we've got 2 rows now, but this might look a bit weird. So let's run preview that. No, that works as well. So I've never actually done that before, but I stick to 1 row. What about colors? Let's try adding some color. So let's give some more space here. I'm going to go to fill color, set that to red, and this will give us the first couple to be red. And I'm going to do randomize order, select the smoothness to 0. So now we've got some in red and some in yellow. we can add in another color. So look at that, really cool way to make graphs. But yeah, what if we wanted a background there? You didn't want it to not have a background. So you're gonna have to cheat a little bit by duplicating the layer and just turning off the animation. So, oh, I think I selected the wrong one. So not the animation, we want to turn off the wiggly selector, and then turn off all the colors. And then select this to be something like that. Yep, so now we've got good graphs on the background. But what if you did want it all on one layer? Well, then you can use shape layers. So let's get into that. So if I go into one of my widgets, go to clean bar graph, and this is one of my favorite tools that I've made. I've got loads of control, so let's just solo this. I'm going to rotate this -90. So if I go to my main controls, I can again select another. This is using a shape layer and not a text layer. So let's make it a bit bigger so you can see. I've got full color control and full animation control as well. So let's make that faster. The only thing I can't do with this one is change the colors of the text of the graphs, but the way you do that is like, so I can say change this to 10 and change the distance to 66, and then duplicate that, move it over, and then change the color to something else. And it's always going to give you a different variation, different animation. But let's just figure out how you can create this. I'm not going to go into full detail on how you can create this because I've got additional options here, but I'll go into enough detail so you can get the gist of it. So let's go, just want to show you a few more options of padding. Let's increase the distance and the height. If I wanted the background to be a bit bigger, yeah, I can do that. Okay, so let's see how I created this. Let's create this from scratch. So the first thing I want to do is create a shape, and I'm just going to do this. So this might be quite long actually, I just realized, because this did take me a long time to make, so bear with me. We're going to go into our, oh boy, how did I make this? Okay, so we're going to go into our shape layer here and we'll call this background. We're then going to duplicate this and then call this main. And let's give this a color. And we're now going to make a lot of controls here, but I'm not going to make the controls here. I'm going to do everything here because it's just going to take too long. So the first thing you'll notice is if you change the, oh, we're in the wrong one, we want the main one. If we change the height, hide the it's constraining from the middle, so how do we fix that? So the first thing you need to do for that is, if my memory calls me, go into the position and pick width the size and then press divided by 2 and then adjust the and now we need to adjust the anchor point. And I'm just going to hide this one out of the way. Okay, and then let's try using the next step, which is the repeater. So we're going to go repeater, and we want it to go down this way, and we can select a number here. So I'm going to just do 8, but all the same. So I'm going to add a wheel transform and set it between main and background. And then I'm going to go to transform. I think this works. Let's have a look. Okay, now just want to state it's been about 2 years since I last made these packs, so since I made these graphs, because I got them as preset, so I had to pause the video, figure out how I made them again. Right, so I've set a repeater and I've set the copies to 8, and I'm going to put that repeater in between main and background, and then I'm going to duplicate this repeater and place it inside background. I'm then going to twirl down and parent this value to this value, and the reason why will become apparent in a second. And the next thing I'm going to do is add a wiggle transform, and that wiggle transform needs to be out. You see how where it ended up? Needs to be in between the repeater and main. We're then going to go to the transform value, unclick this button and select 50 in the scale. And you can see it's done something there, and now if I press play, it's animating all as one, but we don't want that. We want some variation. So to do that, so I just realized actually I need to put that wiggle transform right here. So now we've got this working. Okay, so now we've got this graph, and this value here of main, sorry, the repeater here. So now we can control the number that show up here, and that speed is way too much. And the height is too much as well, so we would go into main and drop this height down. So now we've got our graph all on one single layer. So that's the simpler way to do it. Sorry, not the simpler way to do it, but the simple version compared to my advanced version, which has got a few more features. But if you wanted to add a stroke to this, you can. You just go into the background, add a stroke, turn the stroke on, and you will go into stroke here, change the width, and everything's similar before. Like before, you can change the values and link them up here with slider controls. So we'll go to here, just change Oh, it was the anchor point to change the location of it all. Okay. There you go, it's nice in the middle. So there you go. So that's one way to create graphs using shape layers. So I can't believe you've made it to the end of the video. I didn't expect it to be an hour and 15 minutes long. If you have stuck it out this long, you must really be interested in making UIs with text layers. I've just got up my FUI toolkit here that I mentioned in the video. If you want to support me, it's available here. Here's the full project website here. There's a promo video. There's loads of stuff that you can find out information wise. It's available via my own store, but if you want, you can purchase it through the Gumroad store. It's $45. What I'll do is leave a discount code. If you watch this video, you deserve to get a little bit of money off. I'll give you 10% off. It will help to support me, but it's basically, and if you've watched the video, you probably won't have to, but there are some things like with Windows that are really detailed that I haven't shown how to do, boxes and things like that. It just helps create UIs, loads of circles. It's about 130 different, 120 different presets. It also includes text animations and things like that. And again, it's just drag and drop because you just double click, load it on a preset, and it's basically create what we basically just made today. Alright, thank you for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. I'll be posting more videos in the weeks to come. If you've got any questions about how I've made this video or anything that I've done that I haven't gone into detail, just leave a comment below and I guarantee I will reply back to you. And yeah, in the meantime, stay safe and thanks for watching. Okay, bye guys.